I need you to understand something before I tell you what happened in the catacombs beneath the Vatican. I need you to know that I was chosen for this position because I have no family, no attachments, and no one who would miss me if I disappeared. The church calls it being unencumbered. I call it being expendable. My name is Father Thomas Benedetti, and until 3 weeks ago, I was the last remaining Exorcist Trainer in the Vatican's Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Notice I said was. There's a reason for that. A reason that keeps me awake in this safe house, jumping at every shadow, checking every corner for things that shouldn't exist. The training program was established in 1614, though the church will deny it, if you ask. We don't train exorcists anymore. Not publicly, anyway. What we do happens in places that don't appear on any Vatican map, in rooms that have no official designation, teaching methods that violate every modern ethical standard. We do this because the alternative is worse. Much worse. I inherited the position from Father Dominic, who trained me 20 years ago in those same forgotten chambers. He never told me how he got the job. He never told me a lot of things. When they found him in his quarters, his mouth was stretched so wide his jaw had dislocated, frozen in a scream no one had heard. His eyes were gone, not removed, just gone, leaving smooth skin where they should have been. The official report said, cardiac arrest. I knew better. That's when they came to me. Cardinal Rossetti, head of the congregation, brought me to his office overlooking the Cortile del Belvedere. He didn't offer me the position. He informed me I had been selected. His hands shook as he handed me the leather-bound manual, the Codex Daemonium, written in Latin so ancient even Vatican scholars struggle to translate it fully. The students are already assembled, he said, refusing to meet my eyes. They've been waiting for 3 weeks. We couldn't delay any longer. Waiting where? I asked. He pointed down, just down, as if that explained everything. The entrance was hidden behind a false wall in the Apostolic Archives restricted section. A stone spiral staircase descended into darkness so complete that my flashlight seemed to die within inches of leaving the lens. The walls were wet with something that wasn't water. Too thick, too warm. As I descended, I counted the steps. I stopped counting at 300. That's when I heard the singing. It wasn't hymns. Not exactly. The melody was sacred but wrong somehow, like hearing a prayer played backward or sung by something with too many vocal cords. The sound came from below, rising up the shaft with an echo that made my teeth ache. The chamber at the bottom was vast, a cathedral carved from living rock, lit by torches that burned with flames that cast no heat. 7 stone cells lined the walls, each sealed with iron doors bearing Latin inscriptions I couldn't read. In the center of the chamber stood 7 young men, all dressed in the simple black cassocks of seminary students. They stopped singing when they saw me. Father Benedetti, one of them said. His accent was Eastern European. We've been expecting you. Something in his smile made my skin crawl. It was too wide, too knowing. I checked the roster Cardinal Rossetti had given me. The speaker was identified as Brother Mikhail, age 24, from Romania. The others were listed as Brothers Andreas, Chen, Diego, Emmanuel, Felix, and Giuseppe. All between 22 and 26. All volunteers. All supposedly already trained in preliminary exorcism rites. Gentlemen, I said, forcing authority into my voice. This is advanced practicum. You will observe the protocols exactly as I demonstrate them. There will be no deviation, no improvisation, no questions during active sessions. Brother Emmanuel raised his hand anyway. He was the youngest, Nigerian, with eyes that seemed to reflect the torchlight strangely. Yes, I said. Father Dominic told us about the rules. Will you review them? I hadn't opened the codex yet. I didn't know there were rules specific to this place. But I couldn't show weakness, couldn't let them see that I was as lost as they were. The rules will become apparent, I said. Now, Let's begin with basic binding prayers. That first session lasted 4 hours. I taught them the ritual romanum, the proper pronunciation of command prayers, the signs to watch for during possession. They were attentive, almost supernaturally so. No one fidgeted, no one yawned. They watched me with an intensity that made the hair on my neck stand up. When I dismissed them, they filed into the 7 cells without being told. The iron doors closed on their own, and I heard locks sliding into place, though I saw no mechanism to control them. I was alone in that vast chamber holding the Codex Demonium when I finally opened it to the marked page. The one Father Dominic had flagged with a strip of cloth that might have been torn from his cassock. The title read, Regulae Pro Magistro, Rules for the Master. There were 7 rules written in that ancient Latin, but somehow I could read them perfectly, as if they were meant only for me. Rule 1. Never allow the students to leave their cells between sessions. They will beg. They will plead. They will sound human. They are not. Rule 2. Conduct all training in the center of the chamber. Never approach the cells. Never touch the doors. Never look directly into the cells after dark. Rule 3. The sessions must occur at the same time each day, 3 hours after sunset. Early is dangerous, late is fatal. Rule 4. If a student quotes scripture you did not teach, end the session immediately and return to the surface. Do not speak. Do not look back. Do not return for 24 hours. Rule 5. The torches must never be extinguished. If 1 goes out, leave the chamber. If 2 go out, leave the Vatican. If 3 go out, pray you reach the surface before they do. Rule 6. You will hear Father Dominic's voice calling from the cells. It is not Father Dominic. Father Dominic is dead. Father Dominic has been dead for 60 years. Rule 7. The students are not being trained to perform exorcisms. They are the exorcism. Do not ask what they are exorcising. Do not seek to know what dwells in the 7th cell, the one that has no door. I read those rules 3 times, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the book. The 7th cell. I turned slowly, counting the iron doors around the chamber. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There was no 7th door, just a section of wall covered in inscriptions that seemed to writhe in the torchlight, forming words in languages that predated Latin, predated Aramaic, predated human speech itself. I ran. I won't lie about that. I ran up those 300 steps and didn't stop until I reached the archive, where I vomited into a trash bin while a shocked librarian asked if I needed medical attention. But I went back the next night, 3 hours after sunset, exactly as the rules demanded. The students were waiting in the center of the chamber, standing in the same positions as before. But something had changed. Brother Mikhail's smile was wider. Brother Chen's eyes reflected the torchlight in colors eyes shouldn't reflect, violet and green and shades that have no name. "Good evening, Master," they said in perfect unison. I taught them the adjuration of St. Michael that night, the prayer used to bind demons during the exorcism rite. As I recited it, Brother Diego began to cry. Not tears, something black and viscous that stained his cassock. "Are you all right?" I asked, forgetting Rule 2, taking a step toward him. All 7 students tilted their heads at exactly the same angle. "We are magnificent," Brother Diego said, his voice harmonizing with itself. "Teach us more, Master. Teach us the binding of the 72. Teach us the names that unmake flesh." I hadn't taught them about the 72 demons of Solomon. That wasn't in the curriculum. That was forbidden knowledge, locked away in vaults beneath even this chamber. "How do you know about that?" I whispered. Brother Emmanuel laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Father Dominic told us. He tells us Many things. He speaks from the seventh cell, where there is no door, where there has never been a door, where there will never be a door, because what dwells there requires no passage to move through this world. Rule 4, scripture I didn't teach. End the session immediately. I closed the codex and walked toward the stairs, forcing myself not to run, not to look back. Behind me, the students began singing again. That wrong hymn. Those backward prayers. I made it halfway up the stairs when I heard Father Dominic's voice. Thomas, my boy, why did you leave? The lesson wasn't finished. Come back and see what we've been preparing. Come back and meet the thing in the seventh cell. Rule 6. It wasn't Father Dominic. Father Dominic was dead, but the voice was perfect. Every inflection, every cough, every breath. I had studied under that man for 5 years. I knew his voice better than my own. Thomas, I'm afraid. I'm trapped down here. Please, you have to help me. They won't let me leave. The students, they're not students anymore. They haven't been students for a very long time. I kept climbing, one step, another. The voice changed, became angry, became something else. Fine, stay blind, stay ignorant, but you'll be back tomorrow night, 3 hours after sunset, exactly on time, because that's rule 3, isn't it? And you know what happens if you're late. You know what happens if you break the rules. I reached the archive and sealed the false wall behind me. I blessed it with holy water from my pocket flask. I prayed the liturgy of the hours until dawn, but I went back. I had to go back. On the 4th night, Brother Andreas spoke in ancient Sumerian. I recognized it from my studies, the language of the first cities, the first temples, the first priests who learned to bind demons. On the 7th night, Brother Felix's shadow moved independently from his body, reaching toward me with fingers too long and too many. On the 11th night, one of the torches went out. I followed Rule 5. I left immediately, not bothering with the pretense of calm. I took those stairs 3 at a time, while behind me the students laughed and something huge moved in the darkness where the torch had been. Cardinal Rossetti was waiting in the archive when I emerged. You left early, he said, not a question, an accusation. A torch went out, I gasped. Rule 5. I know the rules, Father Benedetti. Father Dominic knew them. All 13 trainers before him knew them. Do you know how many of them completed the training cycle? I shook my head. None, not one. But the training must continue. The students must be taught. Because if they are not, if we abandon them down there, if we break the cycle... He grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. The thing in the 7th cell will have no reason to stay bound. Do you understand? Those students aren't being trained. They're being fed to it, piece by piece, prayer by prayer. Every lesson you teach them gives it more power, more knowledge, more of what it needs to break free. But as long as the training continues, as long as someone descends every night at exactly the right time, it remains continued. That's insane, I said. We're feeding it. We're making it stronger. We're keeping it distracted, Rossetti hissed. The students are vessels, empty shells possessed by lesser demons offered up to keep the greater evil entertained. It's been this way for 400 years, ever since Pope Paul V made a bargain we don't speak of to protect Rome from something we don't name. He released my wrist and stepped back. You'll continue. You'll complete the 40-day cycle, and then you'll be reassigned, just like Father Dominic was supposed to be, just like all the others were supposed to be. The Church takes care of its servants. Father Dominic is dead. Father Dominic broke Rule 4. He asked questions. He tried to understand. Understanding is not survival, Father Benedetti. Obedience is survival. I went back the next night, and the next, and the next. By the 20th night, none of the students looked human anymore. Brother Mikhail's skin had turned gray and papery. Brother Chen's joints bent in directions joints shouldn't bend. Brother Giuseppe spoke only in whispers that came from behind me, even when I watched his lips move. They absorbed every lesson, every prayer, every secret of binding and banishing and commanding the infernal. And with each lesson, I felt something vast and ancient turning its attention toward me, toward us, toward the surface world. It was on the 33rd night that I made my mistake. Brother Emmanuel asked a question. Simple, innocent. Father, why do we never practice the rite of exorcism itself? Why only the components? I should have ignored him, should have continued the lesson, but I was tired, so tired. 33 nights of descending into that hell, of teaching demons how to fight demons, of feeling my sanity erode with every session. Because, I said, without thinking, you're not meant to perform exorcisms, you're meant to be the exorcism. Silence. Absolute silence. The torches flickered, all of them, at once. The students turned to face the wall with no door, the 7th cell. He knows, they said in unison. The Master knows. The Master understands. The bargain is revealed. The training is complete. The inscriptions on that wall began to glow, not with light, with absence of light, with a darkness so profound it hurt to perceive. Something spoke from behind that wall, a voice that made the chamber shake, made my bones ache, made my thoughts scatter like frightened birds. 33 days, 33 nights, the Christ number. How appropriate. I have learned much, little priest. Your prayers, your bindings, your pathetic attempts to constrain my kin. I know them now. Every word, every gesture, every weakness in your faith. The 7 students began to change, really change. Their bodies split and reformed, revealing what had been wearing them like suits, shapes that defied geometry, limbs that existed in more than 3 dimensions, faces that were all mouth, or all eyes, or all nothing. When I break free, and I will break free, I will know how to counter every defense your church possesses. You have armed me, Father Benedetti. You have given me the weapons to destroy you. 2 torches went out. Rule 5. Leave the Vatican. I ran. God forgive me, I ran. Up those endless stairs, while behind me the remaining torches extinguished one by one, and something impossible squeezed itself through a door that didn't exist. I heard it on the stairs behind me, heard it breathing, heard it laughing with voices that included Father Dominic and Cardinal Rossetti and my mother and my childhood priest and everyone I had ever trusted. I reached the archive, slammed the false wall shut, began blessing it with every prayer I knew. The wall bulged inward, stone cracked, ancient mortar crumbled. You cannot bind me with the very words you taught me to break, it said through the wall. I did the only thing I could think of. I pulled the fire alarm. The Vatican has emergency protocols, secret ones, protocols for threats that aren't fires or earthquakes or terrorist attacks. Within minutes, Swiss Guard were flooding the archive, not in ceremonial uniform, but in tactical gear, carrying weapons that weren't guns. They sealed the entrance, poured concrete, brought in a priest I didn't recognize who chanted in languages that predated Latin while drawing symbols that hurt to look at directly. It took 6 hours. When it was done, Cardinal Rossetti found me in the chapel where I'd been praying. The training cycle is incomplete, he said. 33 days instead of 40. The binding may not hold. I told them, I whispered. I revealed the purpose. I broke. Which rule did I break? You broke the unwritten rule, Rossetti said. The one Father Dominic learned too late. Never acknowledge the truth. Never speak it aloud. Because when you name a thing, you give it power. When you understand a thing, you become complicit in it. When you accept what you're really doing, you become part of the bargain. He placed a plane ticket on the pew beside me. You leave tonight. We'll tell everyone you requested a sabbatical, a monastery in Nepal. Very remote, very isolated. You'll be safe there. And the thing in the seventh cell? We'll find another trainer, begin another cycle, keep it distracted for another 400 years if we have to. The church is patient. The church endures. The church is feeding demons to a greater demon to keep it contained, I said. That's not endurance, that's damnation. Rossetti's expression didn't change. What would you have us do? Release it? Let it loose on the world? 7 students, 7 souls is a small price to pay for the survival of billions. Those students were volunteers. They didn't know, they signed the papers. They took the vows. They accepted the call. What they knew or didn't know is irrelevant. The alternative is worse. He left me there in the chapel, alone with my guilt and my terror and my damning knowledge. I'm writing this from that monastery in Nepal. It's been 3 weeks. The monks here are kind but distant. They don't speak English. I don't speak Tibetan. We communicate through gestures and silence. But last night, I heard singing, that wrong hymn, those backward prayers. It came from the meditation chamber, the one in the basement, the one the monks never let me enter. This morning, I noticed there are 7 monks here, 7 young men who watch me with eyes that reflect torchlight that doesn't exist, and behind the meditation chamber door, I saw inscriptions, in ancient Latin, in Sumerian, in languages that predate human civilization. I understand now. I understand what Father Dominic understood, what all the trainers before me understood. There is no 7th cell. There is no single location. The 7th cell is everywhere, has always been everywhere. Every monastery, every cathedral, every place where humans gather to pray. And we, the priests, the faithful, the believers, we're not containing it. We're spreading it. Every prayer we teach, every rite we perform, every soul we dedicate to God's service. We're not protecting the world from demons. We're teaching demons how to beat US. The training never ends. It just moves, adapts, continues, and I'm still part of it. We'll always be part of it, because 3 hours after sunset tonight, I'll descend into that meditation chamber. I'll open the codex that somehow appeared in my quarters. I'll begin teaching the 7 monks the prayers they already know, the bindings they've already learned to break, the secrets that will make them stronger. Not because I want to, because Rule 3 doesn't just apply to the Vatican chamber. It applies to every 7th cell. In every holy place throughout all of time, the training must continue. The training must continue. And if you're reading this, if you've made it this far, I need you to know something. Check your church, your temple, your sacred space. Count the rooms. Count them carefully. If there's one you can't quite see, one that doesn't appear on any map, one that people avoid without knowing why, that's the 7th cell, and the training has already begun.